Thank you very much and welcome everybody to this workshop in which we will focus on how to best communicate climate protection in everyday life to really make people act. To begin with, we would like to let you know that we aim at recording this session. So just that you are aware of it, we will record the presentation, but we won't record the discussion at the end. But is there someone who can start the recording or let me know whether the recording has...
I've just started it.
It's just started. Okay, super, perfect. Thank you very much. So, again, yes, how to best communicate climate protection in everyday life. That means in a way that it really engages society and makes people act, which is, as we just heard in the keynote speech from Irene Neverla, a really high expectation and a real challenge. But together with my colleague Madly, we will guide you through the session today, and we hope that you will take something for you for your daily work and maybe even for your daily life on how to communicate climate protection. So let me start with just some few housekeeping rules, let's say. So we, as the moderators, we will be sharing the screen and showing the presentation, but this does not mean that we do not want to engage with you. On the contrary, we have designed the session in a very interactive way. So please, first thing to do, go on the website of Slido that you can see on this slide. It's www.sli.do. And then you will be asked to enter a code. And the code next to the hashtag should be change the future, exactly as it is written on the slide. So each word starts with a capital letter. So here we will later in the presentation ask you some questions, but you will also be able to ask some questions. There is a Q&A part on the top of the page in blue for those of you who have already logged in. And here we really ask you to keep, to insert your questions, because then afterwards other participants have the possibility to rate those questions. So there is then, once a question has been inserted, a thumbs up, as we know it from Facebook and other social media tools. This means that you will like the question. So when you come across one that you think is interesting, you can like it. And then the questions which have been rated the most, they will appear on top. And then later, when we go to the Q&A session, we can then start really with the questions on top. So those questions that are of highest interest for you. Okay, so while you are just checking out the Slido tool, I think I will show you the agenda and tell you what is waiting for you in the session. So yeah, after we have getting to know you, and you will also get the chance to quickly get to know Climate Alliance and see what we do, we will have a short intervention on how actually climate change touches us. And then there will be this turning point where we really get deep into how we communicate about climate change, which different ways of communicating exist. And we will come up with two very concrete examples from our work. That is a campaign and the example of A Good Life is Simple. And then in the end, an online tool in which we will explain how we are encouraging people to act with our ideas and instruments. And again, as I already said, in the end, we will have some time for exchange. So I will start now with a short introduction, really short, I promise. So hang on. Yeah, first of all, we are really happy to see this large number of registration, which proves yet again that this question of how to best communicate climate protection is really important and of high relevance of our work, let's say. But the question is really, why is this so important? So let me start this introduction with a link to the Corona crisis. So in Germany, this is where I'm from, we saw, or we could hear really, how the voice of science has become increasingly loud. So scientists experts, virologists. They all appeared in every media channel, whether it was in interviews in TV, in newsletters, or in podcasts. And parallel to this, we saw that politics acted in a speed as never before. So having the scientists on the one side being so relevant, having politics acting so quickly, with the consequence that the entire society changed really considerably in a way that we have never been able to imagine before. So today, probably you know the measures we are walking around with the masks, we keep the distance, we wash and disinfect our hands, etc., etc. So again, a lot of things that had not even been imaginable a few months ago have become a reality. And the question is how? How was it possible that in such a short time, either society started to listen to science or trusted politics, or were so afraid that they came up with these lifestyle changes, or at least they accepted the lifestyle changes that were proposed, suggested, or even really, which came through politics. And then coming back to today's sessions, why do we not see a similar reaction or a similar development when we speak about the climate crisis? I mean, we also have the facts from the science. We also have scientists whose voices are becoming louder and louder, especially thanks to the Fridays for Future movement. So scientists is also here gaining much, much more attention. And we also see at some part of the world, at least, what is happening if we do go on with our daily business. So if we do not change our lives considerably. So of course, the question of why is this development, or why has this development happened or been realized during the Corona crisis and not at the climate crisis, is a very complex one, and I'm not able to respond to this. I'm also not saying that we can compare these two crises one-to-one, but from a communication perspective, I have to ask myself, how can we communicate climate change and climate protection better so that it does have at least a similar effect? So I think it is important to keep an eye on what the Corona crisis has made possible. So we have learned that a lot more is possible than we expected before. And there is much more change to happen that we maybe imagined before. So how do we get to this transformative change of our lifestyle? And now I come to the conclusion of my introduction, so promise. 3 facts. First, the actions we were asked to undertake from both politics and science during the last weeks and months, they were really absolutely proximate, so immediate and direct. We were asked to do them, to undertake them in our local environment, usually within our own 4 walls, or at least within the same district of our city or town that we are living in. And this leads me to the second fact, which means that they were absolute, concrete, and not abstract at all. So a message as stay at home, do this now, is super concrete. Or more recently, we have this Corona app in Germany. We were asked to install this Corona app as soon as possible. Okay, not very abstract, this message, right? And this leads me to the third fact. And this is maybe the most important one, and it's also really the key for the way that we communicate about climate change in our work, is that each and every individual felt suddenly responsible for his or her actions. So we knew that our action or inaction would have immediate consequences for our family members, for our friends, for our colleagues, and for our neighbors. So with this responsibility, there's really the side effect of empowerment. And this empowerment is key. With my actions, I have the power to make an impact. and to change the unfolding of this pandemic in this case. So yeah, when do we have this feeling of empowerment when we speak about the climate crisis? Again, we have the facts from science, we know about the urgency to remain in line with the Paris Agreement, but we don't see immediate consequences of action or inaction. So the climate crisis does not have a proximate cause for us as it is communicated today. And of course, it's happening on a different level. It's much more abstract. So here, in contrast to the corona crisis, instead of feeling empowered, I feel overburdened, I feel overloaded. And instead of thinking my individual actions really have an impact, I rather feel, well, what do my little actions change anyway? I mean, what impact can my small lifestyle change make anyway? So with this introduction, which I would like you to keep in mind for the later discussion, we should start really and get into our session with actually the first Slido poll, because we would like to get to know you as the audience a bit better. So please have a look on the Slido page where you can see the first question, that is, which field do you work in? I'd like to ask you to click one of the suggested fields, so whether you're working in sustainable energy, in mobility, in communication, in food, in sustainable consumption, climate protection, or others, and then click at the green button on the bottom of the page and send it. So I think we give you another like 10 seconds.
Sorry, I think I have to intervene because we don't see the results. Maybe.
So I can see the results.
Yeah,
we see them if we're directly on.
Yes, no,
website,
no, it's fine. No, it's fine.
Okay. But now I don't see them anymore, the results. Do you still see them? Ah, yeah, okay, now I see them again. Thank you. Well, not here. Okay. Can you see my screen with the results?
No, it's fine. We see the results.
Okay, perfect. Yes. Thank you very much. So we see 50% are working in others. Okay. But we have a lot of people working in climate protection, more than 40%. 25% working in communication, 17% in sustainable consumption, 13% in sustainable energy, 13% in mobility, and 8% working on food. So this is great. I think a lot of people working on climate protection is great. So this will be relevant for you, for sure. All right. So now that we have another one. Do you work for a city? Of course, for us working for a city network, it's really great or interesting to know whether you're working in a city, and it will also allow us to really focus on the way that we present this presentation to you. So maybe another 10 seconds for you to respond. And there we go. Okay, we have a few people working in a city, which is great because yesterday we didn't have any. So 18% working in 17% working for a city, in or for a city, which is great because, again, we are a city network. But more on this now from my colleague, Madly.
Hi, yeah. So now that we know you as the audience a bit better, I'm going to present briefly Climate Alliance. So it's a city network with over 1,700 city members in Europe, in 26 European countries, which represents 87 million inhabitants, which is the equivalent of 20% of the EU population, making us the biggest city network for climate action. Through Climate Alliance, all these city members, next slide please, are in partnership with indigenous peoples in South America. And the aim of this alliance is on one side the reduction of CO2 emissions in Europe, and on the other, the protection of the carbon-absorbing Amazonian rainforest. To do so, to reach those goals, Climate Alliance's main goals are for its city members to meet the target of reducing their carbon emissions by 5% every 10 years, and to promote climate justice. So to reduce carbon emissions, it mostly goes through energy savings, energy efficiency, and the use of renewable energies. And for the promotion of climate justice, it's mostly through partnerships between cities and indigenous peoples, and between our direct partnership between Climate Alliance and the umbrella organization of indigenous communities in South America. There's also support for their initiatives, as well as awareness raising activities, and all our members committing to avoiding tropical timber in their public procurement. At the moment, for example, in those partnerships, we also have a cooperation with the, well, we are part of the Amazon Fund that is bringing emergency relief to indigenous communities in South America that don't get any support from their state to face the pandemic that is really impacting them violently at the moment. On top of that, so this year we are celebrating the 30 years of Climate Alliance. It was founded in 1990. And we are looking towards 2050 now, the horizon on which many objectives need to be achieved by then. And so for us, these 30 years, these last 30 years and the coming 30 years mean climate justice, advocacy, sustainable mobility and energy, and achieving those ambitious goals. Okay, so that's it for a brief presentation on Climate Alliance. But now let's delve into our topic. So how climate change touches us. So I'm going to ask you to go back to Slido, and this time to, in one word, say what comes into your mind when you think about climate change. Just one adjective or one feeling or one emotion. So you have 1 minute to just say what comes into your mind. What's the first thing, and then the results will be shown in a word cloud to highlight what words came more often and what words came less. And that's going to give us a picture of the feelings raised by the word climate change, at least with you, our audience today. And I think that, well, yeah, it's an interesting starting point for the rest of the workshop. All right, so we have some results already. I'm going to give you a bit more time and then show the results. Okay, we have quite a few. I'm going to show the results now. Right. Yeah. So as we can see, it's mostly negative. Well, at least fear and challenge, urgency and heat are the biggest words I can see. So it is definitely, rather, a pessimistic view of climate change. I mean, climate change is a huge challenge, and so it is very legitimate to write those words, but as we will see in the workshop, it is important to try to, when communicating about it, to try to focus on a positive way to make an impact, because as Tatiana will show in 1 minute, people don't respond the same to fear as they respond to more positive emotions. So I will now leave Tatiana continue with analyzing how the feelings brought by some usual depiction of climate change might affect us.
Yeah, thank you very much also for you to filling in your words and your emotions. So it's again up to you, so don't lay down in your seats. I'd like you to have a look on these images here for, let's say, 30 seconds and really let them do their magic on you. And afterwards, I will ask you again how you feel and what these images provoke in you. Okay, I think that was enough time. I'd like to ask the technical support to launch the poll, please, that we have for the next slide, where you will be asked on how you feel when looking at these images. So does it rather create a feeling of motivation and action in you, or do you rather feel demotivated and inactive?
Oh.
Oder kann ich das sagen?
Yeah, nein, ich glaube, I think you should ask via the chat. This one is better.
Okay, maybe now. Yeah. So here you can see.
No, I think it's another. This is not.
Yeah, it's true.
This is not our. Better ask it via the chat.
Okay.
Yeah.
And please, we're using Zoom, so there's also a chat box. Please just type in whether you feel demotivated and inactive, or rather motivated and active. I think inactive and active should be enough. So we have already one response that is motivated and active. Demotivated, fed up, seen too many times. Inactive, demotivated. Again, one motivated and active. Others inactive, active, motivated, demotivated, and affect, overwhelmed, inactive, and demotivated. Motivated, but with fear. I think this is very interesting. Another inactive. So one more motivated. I think it's quite equal actually, which is surprising because this is an experience that we usually do in our workshops. And in general, we have a majority really standing then on the side of demotivation and inaction. There's one more. Personally, I feel active when listening to people speak, not by inner images. Okay. Inactive. And the last one, inactive. Okay. I would like to stop this now. I think this was enough time to respond. And we've seen, I had the chance to get an idea of what you think when seeing these images. I mean, these images is really what we are confronted with in our daily lives. This is really how, not the media, because it doesn't exist, but a large amount of media is how a large amount of media is presenting the climate change issue to us. And I think coming back to the word cloud that we had, where we had really many words being very negative, like challenge, fear, urgency, collapse, complex. So really like really very distanced and negative emotions. I think we can say that this is one of the results why we do feel as we do. So again, these are images that we see in our daily lives. And when I look at them, me personally, I think, oh, wow, this poor little cute ice bear, you know.
Ja, weil die starten dann Breakouts.
Like its tiny ice shell is melting. I feel sorry, of course, but I cannot really do something about it. You know, I cannot go there and take the ice bear with me home. I mean, what can I do to save this little ice bear? The same happens with me when I see the burning planet. Of course, I think, oh my God, I mean, it looks horrifying. It's really this disaster framing, and it is a disaster, of course, but there's not much that I personally can do about it. So instead, for me, of activating myself, I rather think like, okay, well, this is horrifying, and I actually do not even want to look at these images anymore. So the more I connect these images, and I mean, this is only one example, these images, we also read newspaper articles about it. We also see documentaries about it. I don't know, we speak with friends about it. But the more I get these negative emotions connected to climate change, the more I think, okay, enough. I don't, there's nothing I can do anyway. And what it also does, it doesn't concern my friends. It does not concern my colleagues. It does not even, concern my neighbors directly, these images. So instead of providing concrete recommendations, they make the already so complex phenomenon of climate change even more abstract. So this really fuels my emotion of disempowerment, and it fuels this question that I already have in mind anyway, like what can my lifestyle, change make anyway? And this is why we feel disempowered when thinking about climate change. It is because we're always confronted also with these horror and worst case scenarios. So this disaster framing. So now I'd like to get more away from this approach and turn towards the approach that we are using, which is based on the fact, on the understanding that we think really, okay, negative images provoke negative actions. And instead of disempowering and communicating things in an abstract way, we aim at bringing climate protection really into people's local and personal environment. And this is maybe also the first sort of conclusion that we can give here, is that instead of having this disempowerment and this really negative emotions, feeling overburdened and overloaded, we want to make it personal. We want people to feel maybe similar as we experienced throughout the last weeks in the Corona crisis, thinking, okay, no matter what I do, I have to think about it because it will have an impact and I have the power to change something. Yeah, and for this, to get a better understanding of what we mean by this, we would like to provide you now with 2 concrete examples where we demonstrate this approach. And again, my colleague Madly will start with the first example.
Yeah, absolutely. So as Tatiana just pointed out, to make climate actions both more concrete and closer, so more personal, we created a communication campaign using positive messages. Instead of focusing on, of course, the very important numbers and the science that is guiding us to take those actions, of course, that's extremely relevant, but to bring it to most people, then people who don't work in that field, etc., it's much more efficient to focus on positive messages. So for example, like classic advertisement, like you can see on the next slide, we focus on a person enjoying a positive moment. So even though it can be an ad for a very nasty company having a terrible environmental impact, the importance to make people want to do that or consume that product is of course by focusing on something positive. So that's what we try to do in the campaign, A Good Life Simple. And I will now present to you the main layouts we created that are focusing on a few different topics. So first we start with the topic of mobility. Why have a lead foot when you can have burns of steel? Focusing on the health benefits of biking instead of using the car. We have then public transportation. Why be stuck in traffic when I could be enjoying my free time? This time trying to show the difference in stress reduction between being in a public transportation compared with being stuck in traffic. And for example, looking for parking in a crowded city. Then we have the topic of energy. Why pollute our air when the winds of change are blowing? This time comparing the air pollution created by fossil energy, whereas clean renewables can bring health benefits or at least a cleaner air. Then we have lifestyle and waste through why you're in my eyes when I can scrape my knees. This one highlighting the health benefits of being active outdoors, and that can also contribute to a reduction in electronic waste. And another one about the impact of the fast fashion industry, why be a shopaholic when I can be thrifty instead. This one also promoting the sense of self and the responsibility for one's actions and one's identity. And we have consumption and plastic packaging with why walk with a case when it can run, highlighting that the weight of carrying bottled water is annoying, especially when you can have it, the water, directly at home without producing any waste. And another one highlighting that fresh produce is healthier. Why opt for a bumper pack when you can enjoy tasty one-offs that also produces no plastic waste. So these were the why layouts, always starting with a why question. But we find it important to cater to all audiences. And so we were working with a communication agency on this campaign. And we thought that these messages could be a bit blunt for some part of the population. Next slide, please. And so we prepared a second version of the campaign, focusing more on values and highlighting the co-benefits of all those actions you can take on climate change. Because to reach, well, for behavior change, you have to understand people's psychology, and to get really big changes like the ones necessary right now, people need intrinsic motivation to then convince, well, to be convinced and then convince their peer groups and the people around them. So we came up with this, the swap versions that I'm going to show very quickly now. So we have trade 3 kilos of love handles for 3 more years of life. Swap stop and go for reading flow. Swap the energy of the past for the power of the future. Swap fast food for time with the kids. Swap bottled water for tap water. Swap coffee to go for moments of inspiration. Swap new junk for old values. And swap plastic packaging for fresh produce. I just want to point out that at the bottom of all posters, next slide please, there's always some key numbers on the relevant topic. So for example, 1/3 of our food production worldwide ends up in landfill, or 20% of the world population consumes 80% of all resources. So that's in order to make clear why those changes in behavior matter. But the main message, like the main image that people go home with, is always positive. But we try to have those two sides, so the positive message and the big facts, to make a clear link between the magnitude of the crisis, but also the fact that normal people in their daily life can impact it thanks to small changes, to show that that change doesn't have to be overwhelming, as Tatiana pointed out in the introduction, this really like this feeling of being overwhelmed that prevents people from acting. And so yeah, good communication is supposed to increase your sense of identity and your sense of community. So for that reason, it's very important to shape the campaign that you want, whatever campaign you're doing, depending on your target group. Like you have to make your target group very clear in order to have fitting communication. And so, for example, this campaign was originally intended for cities in Western Europe. And so these are the people and values that are reflected in the posters. I think that's what you can feel when looking at the posters. So it means that it would work pretty well in that context, but it was not adapted at all contexts. A good communication campaign has to be adapted. We can't see the slides anymore, yeah. And so this way of communication, this more positive way of communication, changes the narrative around climate change, saying instead that, yeah, big changes are already happening around in your community. Just join in. And so yeah, next slide, please. All posters can be downloaded for free in 13 languages on overdeveloped.eu. And some logos can be added in the white part at the bottom. You can add a city logo or any relevant logo. And so yeah, we invite you to have a look on the website and check if your language is available. Now I'm just going to show quickly some examples of the campaign being used in various cities. So here in Germany, the bus stop as well. In Saarbrücken, in Munich, on the back of a bus, in Luxembourg on the town hall, during a climate protest, and during our climate protest in Frankfurt in September, the climate strike, during which we had some small posters, as well as those wooden frames that are on the floor. We were originally carrying them on our shoulders. It was to show actually the size that take SUV in the city. And so we had like, I guess, 6 of them or maybe more. And we were all walking around in the demonstration with that to show that, when we have them on our shoulders, it's really striking how for just one person being in the car, this is a ridiculous amount of space to take in a city. So that's the explanation for the wood around us. Okay, and so now we're going to focus on the other tool we have to bring climate-friendly behaviors in people's daily life, and that Tatjana is going to present, Change the Future.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Indeed, I will now focus on another tool, which is called Change the Future tool. To just make a link to the campaign. So this tool also focuses a lot on the role of the city. So as you know, we're a city network. We are working together with cities. Cities are our members. So we are producing our tools and our material for the cities specifically to then either engage with the society, so with the citizens, or on other levels. But for us, it's therefore always important to focus on the role of the city also as an ambassador, because this is where life is really taking place, where it happens. And the question that we always ask ourselves is, how can we turn the life that is happening in the city into a good life? And this for both, for individuals and entire communities. So now, while the example of the campaign targeted the city's role as an ambassador and showed how the city can set an example and raise awareness of climate-friendly coexistence, showcasing the positive examples to follow in daily life, this tool is a bit a different approach because it urges people to integrate climate action and responsibility into their lives and become active in the fields of also climate action, of course, in terms of mobility, nutrition, consumption, and energy. But it focuses more on the active participation of the citizens. So the idea is not to take the present as a result of the past, but rather that the present exists out of what we imagine in the future. So instead of the past creating the present, it's the future that is pulling the present. And this is also where this title, Change the Future, is coming from. So again, we have the 4 topics of consumption, energy, mobility, and nutrition. And for each of the topics, we make different suggestions on how they can be included in daily life. And in total, there are 24 suggestions from our side. And the goal is really that all municipalities can start a dialogue about sustainability at the city level. And therefore, it's also free and available in 10 languages now. So it showcases activities that individuals can do and complete, but also teams. So you can either start a competition with between the cities, between two different cities or more, or also between different groups. For example, here, the question is leftovers in the fridge, be creative in the kitchen and share with others. So you can see the language that we use really highlights the opportunities. And I've seen in the chat that a challenge is not necessarily something negative. It's true. It can also be turned into an opportunity. And this is actually exactly what we are with the language that we're using in this tool. It's really about responsibility, but you know, for you to become active, be creative and do this. All that. Yeah, the actions that you can choose are very different. They range from different levels of complexity. For example, it starts with really drinking tap water to avoid the plastic bottles, towards really using climate-friendly mobility for 4 weeks. The more, of course, the more commitment comes from the side of the individual, the more changer points you can collect. The idea is also to frame it within a playful game, really, to have like this challenge, if you want, of collecting the changer points together in a group, together with your city. So really localizing the whole context, and then committing for something in order to receive the changer point. So it really also brings this whole topic away, or it, yeah, we lift, let's say, or we try to lift the people out of this shock moment of seeing burning planets and poor ice bears on ice shelves, to a more local, very proximate, very close and personalized context, and then to unlock this shock moment, which comes from this disaster framing oftentimes. So how does it work? There is a small video for you which quickly explains how it works. So yeah, this was just to give you an idea of how it works. And now I would like to show you how it looks like from the inside with more concrete examples. So you can see here the different actions that you can then choose once you've signed up and registered. So you can travel by train rather than by car, for example. So then you commit for a certain time frame that you can either decide individually, or as we designed the tool, was actually really to get the city to organize really this competition together with its citizens. So a city says, okay, from week X to week Z, we are going to have this competition. Please, citizens, try to collect as many changer points as you can. And then in the end, they can see the results, how many people have participated and how many changer points have been collected. And like this, they can also get into competition with other cities. So you see some examples here: switch to regional, seasonal, and organic. Exchange light bulbs is one of the less complex and very simple activities that you only can do once. But again, the example with climate-friendly transport, you can do it over a longer period of time. So here is one example, and this is also then how it looks like. For example, here, if the participant clicked on the plus on the right side, the number of weeks will increase, and so will, of course, also the change points. And you can see also by the language that we're using here that it is again combined with facts, but it's also with it's very low cost, as we say in German. So it's not heavy information that we provide. And we also want to provide a deeper understanding of the global interdependencies. So taking into consideration the climate justice issue, really. And then we do this by calling into question really the European overconsumption of natural resources and showing the way towards more responsible and globally fair consumption habits. We also aim at localizing the SDGs here in engaging the local authorities towards climate justice, as I just said. Yeah. The next example would be on the energy transition. And here I would like to add that we also communicate about this tool and about the campaign also on our social media channels, of course, linking it to the day-to-day facts, to the current situation. So here, for example, we have posted some posts on Facebook and tweeted via Twitter also in terms of, okay, so we have a health crisis, you're locked in at home, so try to make use out of this time, and why not switch into your more sustainable electricity provider? So make really use of the time that you have while being locked in at home. Another example focusing again on the local context. So we have tried to link the facts with what we have learned in the past weeks again. So we communicated around this activity in a way of, okay, now it has become clear how unsustainable and also not very resilient our supply chains are. So why not strengthening the local supply chains while, you know, consuming local products, and also then really trying to foster a bit this principle of solidarity within the local community with these things. And the last example, which also goes a bit beyond this, day-to-day activities, which is to change the banks. And this should also a bit show that, okay, it's your daily actions, but it's also really, it goes beyond this. So you have influence on a larger scale when, for example, choosing a sustainable bank, which does not support the fossil fuel industry with your money, basically. Yeah, I think just to embed it once more into the current situation, the question today is really, and this is what people are also thinking about out of our experience, is that what world do we want to live in the future? So now we are standing at crossroads. Now decisions are being taken, and the decisions that we will take today will have really an impact for a longer period in the future. I think that with these two examples we just provided, so this Change the Future tool, again, it's online, available for free. All cities can use it, but also individuals. So if you try to log in and you realize that your city is not registered yet, all Climate Alliance members are registered automatically. But if you realize your city is not registered yet, then you can maybe even get in touch with your city and ask whether this would not be an opportunity. For example, here, one of our members, they really localized this, combining the tool also with a bit the idea of the campaign, which means, okay, why do we have to take the plane to Mallorca or to wherever for sangria when I can have really nice ice cream in my own town. So it's again bringing the sustainability issue back into the local context. And they did so. Also, they started with an exhibition on climate protection in the region. Then they promoted the tool via social media, newspapers, and information stands, distributed posters and postcards, which we can all provide. We have all prepared this material and provided also to our city members. And in the end, and this is really something also important, that the citizens realize, okay, you know, the city is really awarding me maybe also for my activities, and have it on the city has it on the radar that I'm taking part, and I'm, you know, making sure I'm aware of my city and how they take climate change seriously with a prize award. So of course there is a lot of communication also happening around these tools. Yeah, this was just to give you an example on how a city could use it. Again, this was our pilot city Worms, and this was the end of this was the prize award, where they gave this locally produced vegetables to the winners. Okay, and one last thing. We from Climate Alliance, we award each year our cities for successful local climate action stories with the Climate Star. And this year, for the first time, we have a special Climate Star for this Change the Future tool. So if you're working in a city and if you're thinking about making a competition, becoming part of this Change the Future tool, campaign, then it's really worth applying for this Climate Star, because here we will also award our cities that are really active in climate action. Okay, I think that was it from my side. Perfect. And this would give us some time for questions and answers. So I see some people are typing in the chat in Zoom. I think for managing the questions better, it's easier to just use Slido. And I see already 3 different questions here. I will start reading them out. The first one is someone who does not agree. A challenge is not pessimistic. A challenge can be something very motivating. Sports people and many others face said challenges every day. Exactly. This is what I've already kind of touched upon. So it's not necessarily negative to call this a challenge. A challenge can also be positive, for sure, but then it depends on, first, which type of person are you in, and how do you perceive the climate change communication that you envision. Is scraping knees positive? Well, no, of course not. It's a painful experience, but I think the idea was not to link it with the painful experience of scraping knees, but rather the humor behind it, right? Then another one, I find the messages on the wire posters rather complex. The second series is more to the point. Madeleine, do you want to say something about this one?
That's also why we have two different approaches, two different versions, because people just respond differently to different motivations. I also think that the English phrasing is not the easiest one to understand. Maybe well, I don't know what your native language is, but I know that for me the ones in French in my case were more catchy. I found them more catchy than the English ones for the Y version. I also find that in English the swap version is just easier to understand somehow. But yeah, it just really depends on the person and the context and the language. So yeah, once again, it's just always having different options to fit best to the context. That's always the point with communication campaigns. And so yeah, I don't know if people have other questions. I mean, since we are in a meeting setting and not a webinar, it's actually possible for people to just unmute themselves and just ask a question to us directly if you prefer, rather than writing it down. Yeah, we're open for questions.
You can also ask the questions in your mother tongue, in French, German, Italian, Slovene. There's a question, I just received a question in my private chat, which says, I will say it in French. La campagne touche-t-elle toutes les couches de la population? Elle représente plutôt une population qui paraît sensibilisée. Comment toucher les populations les plus démunies?
I wouldn't say it addresses people who are already sensitized to the topic. I do think it addresses people in urban settings, that's for sure, rather than the countryside. But I think that the messages themselves are quite, work pretty well for urban settings. But yeah, well, depending on which one, depending on which poster, some of them, it's true, don't work well for underprivileged neighborhoods, for example, and work better in more well-off areas. That's true. Yeah, that's yeah. I mean, that's always a problem with communication campaign. You cannot have a one-size-fit-all campaign. That just doesn't exist. It's up to you when you create it to figure out, yeah, who's my target group, and then just do something that works well for them. And then if you have another target group, then you just need to create something else that is different for them as well. You can't hope to have something that's just going to convince everybody. That's the issue. Yeah.
But maybe to go in the direction of the question, have you done any work specifically to reach groups that are the furthest away from the topic of climate change or from the challenge of climate change?
So maybe I can jump in here with the idea of the tool. I mean, reaching the people, let's say, beyond the usual suspects, so those that are, you know, very sensitized of the topic anyway. I mean, this of course is the real challenge, and it goes beyond our competences, let's say. But what we try to do is really to create this feeling of community, or the sense of community, and then doing it together. So really trying to create this peer pressure. So the more people we get on board, the higher the peer pressure is. And if I have a colleague who tells me, hey, you know, we're using this tool, we're collecting changer points, come on and support, you know, this is what we aim at, that it's spreading a bit the idea, not via complex and very abstract facts, but via this, it's actually something that is easy, it's something that is fun, and you will see it makes your life good and simple.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And also these tools, both the campaign and the tool, are both thought to create this conversation between the citizens and the city, try to involve people around some common issues and be like, okay, so what can we do at the local level? What can we do together? As Tatiana just said, like creating this sense of community is it's work. And we, as a city network, we just try to support our city members in creating this community, sense of community with those tools. But yeah, then it's up to each city, depending on their population, to adapt it to the different citizen categories that they have. And now there's another question about Climate Alliance commitment to a 10% reduction every 5 years. And the well, the fact that we should now globally aim at 7.6% CO2 reduction each year compared to the 1990 level. And so is Climate Alliance revising this target? The discussions are happening at the moment. We don't have yet a revision, but we are we are discussing it because this target was very ambitious back in the 90s, but now is actually not ambitious enough. So we are we are thinking about updating it, but it is a very big commitment, of course, for all the cities. So it's discussions always take a bit of time.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, we have many cities who also actually during our last annual conference, they proactively asked for it, that we need to increase this commitment. But of course, we have other cities which for them it is not so easy to raise the ambitions. But of course, this is, as my colleague said, it is an ongoing discussion, and we will come to a conclusion hopefully soon. Good, a very good question. Yeah, are there any other questions, whether on Climate Alliance or on our presentation, on the tools or the materials that we provide?
I have a question. It's probably quite a challenging one. From my experience, I also work with for a network of cities, and from my experience, if you develop solutions or offers at the level of a network, which is what you're doing here, which I think, I mean, sounds great and interesting, but the difficulty is, on the one hand side, that it's not necessarily always fitting to each local context. The fact, for example, to have pictures that are not the pictures of the city themselves, but from many different places that are quite anonymous, that for me takes this local character a bit away. That's one aspect. And the other aspect, I mean, I know that you probably don't have the solution alone, but it's just, I'd like to know what you think about it. The other aspect is that having visuals is important and good, and having good messages. But as I think was said in one of the sessions yesterday, one of the most important points is really the human contact, and the fact that there's people behind these visuals who transport these messages, and that's in the hands of the cities. And often there's not enough people or not enough resources to transport the messages. So even if they use the posters, if it stops at that, I observe that the impact is quite limited. I don't know how you go about this challenge, or how you see things, how you work with the cities to ensure that such campaigns, visuals, tools are embedded in a broader work carried out by the city.
Madly, you don't wanna go? Then I can try. Yeah, so it's true. It's really about the people. And this is why we also try to foster also the trust between the citizens and the local politicians, really, that we have an exchange here. So we are often promoting what is a very current issue is this food council, for example, also where citizens can get active, or in general citizen councils, where really there is an exchange between the citizens and the politicians, because this is also key. You have to have the trust, and you also have to have sort of a link, they say, like a relationship really between the local politicians and the citizens. And this is also, again, where politics is happening. It touches us first on the local level. To embed then our images and our material into this local context, we usually design the material in a way that, as Madly said, for example, with the campaign, they can put their city logo at the bottom, and they can present these images in the city, which sort of embeds it automatically, I think, into the city landscape. And to embed it more into the broader work of the city itself, this is what I try to show with the example from Worms. So we encourage them to really start with this exchange. So in the moment I start a week about sustainability, about climate change, with different information stands, also trying to bring the local politicians to these events so that also the citizens might have the possibility to exchange, to really get into a discourse, into a discussion. This is great. And yeah, we try usually to design the tools and materials flexible so that the city is then able to easily adapt it to their work, let's say. But of course, it remains a challenge.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like on our level, we can't make sure of that for every city that is part of our network. It's just not possible. But of course, we do, as Tatiana just pointed out, we do try to support it in different ways. We also try to showcase some good examples. For example, we have we're always trying to promote participative democracy, no matter how it is embodied in different cities. For example, we have Nantes, a city member in France, that has a participatory budget to give voice to local, to really bottom-up initiatives for just local improvements in the neighborhood or something. We have also Oxford in England, where it was in September that they started with a citizen council on climate action, with a group, I think more than 100 citizens from all different backgrounds and areas of the city, to decide, okay, so how do we translate those climate commitments on the global level? How do we translate them on the local level? And they worked for months and months on, I think 2 times a month, on, okay, yeah, so what are the challenges and how do we really need to tackle them? And then how? And it's a really great work, and it is working pretty well. So yeah, we're always, as a network, always promoting that sort of initiatives, but of course we can't make cities do it. We can only showcase it, basically. So yeah, that's what we try to do. Yes, Tatiana, you want to add something?
Yeah, one last thing that just came into my mind is really this, we encourage the cities also to design their cities together with their citizens. So when it comes to climate and energy roadmaps, plans, strategies, however you want to call them, we always try to say, do it together with your citizens, because then as soon as you are, or as soon as the citizens are part of this decision-making process about their hometown city, then they become more responsible and again feel more empowered. As soon as you are part of a decision-making process, you feel that you can, you know, your insights, your visions, your ideas, they count, and you have the possibility to bring them in and then really shape your city. And this is also, I left it out now, but we have the example in the Change the Future tool, where we really ask, okay, get active, you know, or be very aware of your bicycle infrastructure, you know, where are the corners that are dangerous, where does the city need to know they have to improve it. So really designing the city of the future. And for this process, it's sometimes also possible to go beyond the usual suspects, because suddenly people don't link it necessarily to climate change, but they might think, okay, you know, if my street will be freed of cars, this will actually have a health benefit for me. This will actually, you know, make my life much less stressful, because the noise is not there anymore. The congestion is much lower. So these, you know, like really lifting them out of this, okay, CO2 emissions, energy efficiency, energy reductions, like this also sometimes really complex framing, but then to actually what is happening in front of my door.
Okay, thank you very much. It's 11:55, just the time that we plan to end. And I see there's a certain number of participants who are joining our plenary room to finish. Thanks a lot to Madeleine and Tatiana, in particular for this final statement. I think was quite interesting, pointing out that communication is also very much, communication does not stand alone, but must be linked to a broader, to further actions and a broader strategy, in particular concerning local authorities or municipalities that need to embed the communication measures they implement in their city planning and other important decisions that are taken and that design the cities of the future. So thanks a lot for your great presentation, and thanks to all the participants for your participation and your questions. And yeah, I think we'll just wait a short moment for all the other participants from the other rooms to join us again in this plenary.
And just a quick thing while we wait for them,
Yes, sure.
would it be possible to ask the people who took part in our session to go back on Slido to just give us a feedback poll, to just fill the feedback poll, to just let us know about the session. So right now it's how would you rate the quality of the content, and then a second feedback poll is going to come just for us to know a bit how you felt about it, if you learned something, and what we can do better next time. Thank you very much. I can see that some answers are coming in. I'm going to now put the second question. So for the content, the participants were very much satisfied. And now the second poll, I hope you can see it too. Should be fine. Thank you very much. That's it for our side.
Yeah, thanks a lot also from my side, and enjoy the rest of this exciting conference. And thanks also to the organizers.